We're popping up in Florida with an all-new BizBash experience. Join us February 19th and 20th at the Gaylord Palm Resort and Convention Center in Kissimmee as we co-locate with Connect. Hear from President Barack Obama, Ambassador Capricia Marshall, former Social Secretary Disha Dyer, Disney's former Head of Innovation and Creativity Duncan Wardle, and more. Register now at bizbashlive.com/Florida.
Are you
10, 9, 8,
okay, so we're gonna do the ad.
Welcome to GatherGeeks, a podcast by BizBash, the place where people passionate about meetings and events come together. Here are your hosts, BizBash CEO David Adler and Editor-in-Chief Beth Kormanik.
Hi, David.
Hey, Beth. Here we are, another edition of GatherGeeks.
Our guests today are Brent Taylor and Arlene Schilke. They're presidents of Timewise Event Management and executive producers of Go West. And David, you were at Go West. It's a conference in Edmonton, Canada in January. Give us a quick description of the event to tee up this conversation.
Well, it is like a parallel universe everywhere in the world. These event conferences feel like going home to a family because the people in our industry around the world, while everyone says everything is so different, everything is the same. The character of the people that love to connect with other people, the enthusiasm for a great stage, the absolute delight when they walk into a room and they see incredible decor and food and connections. It is everywhere in the world. That's what I love about this industry. We are completely like music in a sense. We travel very easily and the elements really are incredible. And so this was a stage, a setup. This was a conference in Edmonton, which is Western Canada. And we had about 1,500 people, I believe, and speakers from all around the world were there. And we learned a lot. We learned a lot just by connecting with each other.
And you said BizBash had a role in this event. What was that?
Yes, Timewise, which is the producer of Go West, and BizBash teamed up on this conference, and it was a huge success.
Great. Well, so this conversation took place in the afterglow of the event, which I'm sure our listeners can relate to. So you are going to talk about some of the strategic choices that the producers made, from everything stage design to their choice of foregoing an MC and more. Let's listen.
So here we are at the end of the day for Go West 2020. Tell us a little bit about what happened today and yesterday. We're here in Edmonton. Tell us a little bit about what your experience was.
Well, we're exhausted, but also really, I think, exhilarated right now, coming off a buzz of just being with event professionals for the last 2 days. It's been a really exciting time, great community of people, really good energy of people just wanting to be here, connecting, discovering, and learning. And
what do you think is you've done this now in this particular event for 3 years. What have you learned that this is kind of the culmination of 3 years of education? Brent, you want to take that?
Wow, that's a loaded question. We've learned so much. I think going into producing this event first time around, we didn't know what to expect, how much the industry would adopt it. We ended up, we're so used to working with clients is probably, the one thing prior to this event is we always worked with clients, and then all of a sudden we're producing our own event, and just that learning curve for
what is the thing? What's like the biggest takeaway that you have on how after the first year you evolved to the second year? Was it the people? Was it I'm trying to make you dig. So it's hard to answer these questions because they're kind of important questions. So I'm forcing you to think a little bit more, because every organizer who's listening is also asking themselves, what did I learn from this? What will I do better next year? And what is the secret sauce? Either one of you can take it.
I think I can answer that. For me, I think the biggest lesson I learned and what this event is really about, because we go into the first year, we don't know, what do we focus on? What's important? And for me, my third year now, it's the people, it's the community of event professionals. Like it's the people, it's us, it's the people that make it happen. All of us, we're in it together. It's not a me against you.
But where do you know that the content is right? Like, is it somebody coming up to you in the hallway saying, oh, what about this idea? What is it that other people could take from learning from what you guys have learned? Arlene, do you want to take a shot at it?
I don't know. I'm going to go back to what Brent said again about the people and the connections and just everybody feeding off of each other almost and wanting to be here. We just had so many people coming up to us and saying, this has been fantastic. And I've met people, I've done business, I've learned things. And I finally found my people. As event planners, we often work in silos. And I think just providing a forum for people to be able to connect with each other and meet each other and realize that they're not alone, it just meant so much.
And David, it's not about, I think this event, you got to realize it's not about just us. That, yeah, we produce this event, but it's not us delivering this event. We're bringing together so many different players and expertise that we don't even have, and asking these companies and these people to come on board to help us put on the different aspects of the event, and they jump at it and say, yes, we're in. Well, then we get out of the way. The
one thing that I know, we do the same thing in many other cities. And the idea is that people want to show what they do to our community because it's economically important to them. But also when they do their best work, people talk about it. And it makes it from a commodity to a very, very important thing that they do that they really feel proud about. Is that what you're finding? I mean, because you use one thing that we know in our business, we can't really afford what we're getting when we're producing a show to the event industry. Because if we did, this show would be costing 10 times the amount that it would cost if we just did it off the shelf, right?
Yeah, no, that is so true. And I think that we really try to work with a lot of our partners in saying, we have this opportunity. Do you want to showcase, especially with some of our decor companies? And we tried not to restrict them and to just give them, free reign to do whatever they wanted. And we found that when we did that and didn't put restrictions on them, they just took over and they created amazing things.
So go into what amazing means. People are listening in. What is amazing? Tell us about the breakout rooms. Tell us what they did.
Those breakout rooms were on steroids, and I still can't even believe that all happened.
Explain what you did. You actually you branded each room in a different topic.
Yeah, and we're not going to take the credit for that at all. That was really One West Event Design and FMAV. We said we have these 6 breakout rooms. Is there anything that you guys can do? I was just expecting, maybe some centerpieces. I didn't really know what to expect. They completely turned those rooms into 6 different experiences. We had the dark room, we had the gym, we had the classroom, the suite, the playground. It was crazy.
Go into what the playground looked like. So, because it was the radio, don't forget. Do you remember?
Oh, I'm not sure I can describe on radio. It's picture is 1,000 words,
But it is radio. We have no choice.
I don't know, to describe it, but it was beyond.
It had a ball pit, I can tell you that.
It sure did, but no, it was beyond. It was just beyond branding. We see the trend of organizations that sponsor putting their brand into a room and throwing in very different types of seating, and I think it was a step beyond that because FMAV and One West talked to our speakers, talked about the presentations, built the rooms around the presentation, and the presentation was built around the room. So everything was cohesive.
Well, Alex Alex Plaxton did a session on social media. So it actually had Instagrammable moments in the room, which made it really interesting for people to actually experiment with taking Instagrammable photos in the session.
Yeah, and in that room, I'll try my best to describe it, but FMAV put a truss all the way around the room on I think it was about 8-foot stands, and then they hung or truss stands, and they put I guess you call them swings and hammocks from them around the perimeter, and then there was a ball pit, and it wasn't just a normal ball pit; it had ping pong balls. A little challenging for some people to get into the pit and walk in it because these balls you can't get your foot on the floor. But they had that. There was all the surfaces were branded with multicolor. Any direction you went had an Instagrammable moment or was Instagrammable. So we found actually Alex was saying I wasn't in the room at the time when with his sessions, but he was telling me that people were laying down on the floor and up against things and jumping into the ball pit and taking all these Instagrammable moments. And also he had Insta breaks, I think he called them, where there was a couple of breaks when they can just free for all and they just go do whatever they can do or want to do with taking pictures.
Yeah. So, and you also one of the things I love about doing this show, and I was a speaker. I've been a speaker 2 years in a row, and BizBash has been partnering with you guys on things. Is the staging is unbelievable in the main stage. What is your theory on why put so much effort into the staging?
It's again an opportunity for our partners to showcase, and so both years, we worked with them and just said, we want something different, and this is your chance to really, you're not restricted by a client saying we want 2 screens or we want this or that. It's whatever your dream stage is and whatever you wanted to do and always wanted to do, but never had the perfect client to do it. This is that opportunity. And it's really your opportunity to showcase to the events industry. These are a room full of your potential clients, what you can do. And both years, 2 different companies have just knocked it out of the park.
And they're probably the equivalent of $500,000 to $1 million worth of, if you had to buy it off the shelf. Easily.
Yeah, easily.
Yeah. And the lighting and everything else and the production values were first class. And I think that's what brings people back on a regular basis, is they know that they're not only going to meet their friends, but they're going to see something new. They're going to see what's next.
Yeah. And we also, there's a lot of strategy that goes into the main stage. And, we're not only are we bringing, world-class thought leaders in that work in the industry. We're not bringing speakers in that, professional motivational speakers. We're bringing people working in the industry and engaged in the industry. But that room was really unique. It's unique in that the way we deliver the program. And I'm going to give Arlene all the credit on that, because we're doing something that's really unique and that we have no MC. And I just saw recently there's a trend now that's starting to pop up called hostless events, where there's no MC. And I think we kind of were ahead of the curve a little bit on it. And we have no MC. Everything's done with voice of God, audio singers, lots of, the room is hazed. We got lots of light, you see light beams everywhere. The lights moving in between.
Well, it's you're transformed into a different mindset when you walk into one of these sets. And you have also different levels of seating too. You have theater style in some. You have bean bags in other places. You have tables in other places. So it's you can't quite put your finger on what it is, which is really interesting.
Yeah, and we even have at the back on either side, we've got risers built out of bleachers built out of risers, and there's theater seating on those. So the seating really goes from high at the back down to low at the front.
Don't forget to register for BizBash Live Florida, the pop-up. Join fellow event pros February 19th and 20th in Kissimmee for this all-new experience. It won't be the same without you. Secure your spot today at bizbashlive.com/Florida.
I think it's one of the hallmarks of what you're doing. The other thing that I talked to Dave Merrill, who is closing out the sessions. This is as we speak, actually, and the comment that I made to him, we're really event business is universal. We're like music travelers. The event industry is so fabulous that it's the same everywhere. Really, the creativity is everywhere. People resonate everywhere. You don't have to be in LA and New York to be cool. I mean, it's happening everywhere, including the Pacific Northwest, and people love it and people appreciate it. Correct? Am I smoking any bad cannabis here?
No, that is very true, and that is, I think, something that it doesn't matter really where you are, and that's really what we've tried to show people here is, we're here in Northern Alberta, I guess, in Canada, and we can do some really creative things here.
And you do. And the talent is unbelievable. The culinary also was very interesting, that I have not been to a place where the culinary is this elevated and so different. Talk about, this convention center, you wouldn't think is a convention center food place. It's really a culinary sort of, it's a shining light in the culinary world.
It is. The chefs that they have working here are incredible. The food has always been great. They do have a room full of meeting and event planners, so they are out to impress.
But they are doing their job.
Even on a regular day, it's not that much different. So it is outstanding. I know last year the one thing that people talked about post-event was the food. And I feel like this year it's going to be the same thing. What everyone's going to be talking about after is the food.
Yeah, it really has been remarkable. The idea that this is it's a growing industry here. I mean, even Alberta, in the province, people are taking events more seriously. Is that correct? Are you seeing that as well? You're seeing growth in terms of the idea that people want to do more events, or do you see it capping out?
Well, that's a tough question because, Alberta's been hit pretty hard with the economy in recent years. And I don't know if if there's been an increase in events, but, we do them well. And, I look at the Canadian Event Industry Awards, and we see Alberta event professionals winning those awards. And it's fantastic. I'm so proud of what we do here in this province.
Well, you're also attracting the whole West. I mean, there's a lot of people from Vancouver and other parts of your area here. So you're basically creating a tribe of people from the whole area, correct?
We are. We've really worked hard to create a tribe of people or a community of people within Western Canada. And, even though, this event, it is in Western Canada, held in Western Canada, and it's, we got, at this point, our attendees are primarily Western Canada. But we're drawing in a lot from the East now, and, we've had inquiries from the United States, and we're open, it's an event in Western Canada, open to the world. If you're interested in what we're doing,
Western Canada, I mean, people don't realize this whole royal thing is going to make Western Canada the coolest place on the earth, even though they may not want to admit that the royalty is going to change anything. It's going to, from a CVB, Convention and Visitor Bureau perspective, having the Sussexes, I don't know what you call them, actually part of this part of the world is really a big, big advantage to you guys.
Yeah, I would think so.
You don't really know what you're
hitting. Are they
you're
settling in Alberta? I haven't really followed.
Well,
much
they're
of
settling in Vancouver, but most people don't know the difference between Western Canada and everything else, right?
No, Vancouver's a beautiful place, and we're working hard to get the event professionals from Vancouver out, and we've had lots here this year. And they're all going to go back and tell their friends and colleagues and bring them and come out next year.
For our people that listen in the United States, this is a really cool area, and economically, save 30%. Do people from the United States want to travel to Alberta? Are you seeing an uptick in that in terms of events in Western Canada?
You're referring to like industry events?
No, not industry events. Just companies that want to do. I mean, it seems like I've talked to people today that said, how obvious it was that if you come here, you get the highest quality stuff in a very cool place at 30% discount. Why wouldn't you want to experiment, like at least know about this place?
Yeah, I think that's interesting. As Canadians, we're so used to traveling down to the United States, whether we vacation or going to conferences. There's so much happening down there, and I think Americans aren't quite as used to traveling into Canada, or there's probably a smaller percentage. And yeah, I think the one thing I want people to realize is there's we've got our tier 1 cities out there, we've got tier 2. Edmonton here, and an Edmonton Convention Center is. I think the DMOs consider us a tier 2 city, but you're right. It's like the cost factor is so much less than doing it even in Canada, like in a Vancouver or a Toronto, it's so much less. It's savings, and it's not that hard to travel here. Edmonton and Calgary and Alberta here their airports have lots of connections, direct flights from the United States and across Canada. So I think that I'm a huge believer in that people should want to find really new exotic places, and to a lot of people this is exotic, but it's like an hour away, and that's what they don't necessarily realize. And I think it's really important to be promoting this area. I didn't know anything about this area, and now it's like I want to come here every year in the middle of January. Right. Even in the middle of January, it's pretty cool. Well, I think maybe more so for Americans, but if you talk to them and you say Edmonton, and they're like, "Where's that?" We're up in central to northern Alberta. They're like, "Well, where's that?" And you start trying to describe, and I think they think we're up in the Arctic Circle or somewhere. But I always point out to people, we're a city of 1.3 million people. We're substantial. We but really, like we're no farther north than I think we're the same as just north of London, England,
Yeah.
Hamburg, Germany.
Yeah.
In fact,
We had a conversation the other day about that.
Miguel Neves from flew in from Copenhagen, one of our speakers, and he posted on social media and said, "Hey everybody, I'm heading south to Edmonton, so we're farther south than Copenhagen."
Yeah, the people don't realize that, but it is. I mean, Canada is for an event organizer. All of Canada is really an unbelievably good opportunity in all fronts. I do remember coming here a few years ago, and the dollar was higher than our American dollar was higher than the Canadian dollar, and the guy wouldn't take my dollars. Now, this is 5 years later or something like that, it is a bargain for the American to come here.
Yeah, because you got that exchange rate, like it's 30% right now. Plus, hosting events here, you're saving on the overall cost.
Yep, and the quality. What impressed me most as somebody who's been speaking here for 2 years is the quality of the craftsmanship of the people that work in this industry here. It is first. Literally, you may not even realize how first class this really is. So this is a huge compliment to
Thank you.
my experience here in Edmonton
Thank you, David.
and southern and Western Canada. So it's great. So what's next?
Well, we're already starting to think about 2021. You can't help when you're at an event to your mind starts going and you think about, different things that you want to do or how you would change things up. And we've already got lots of great ideas for what we want to do for 2021.
Was there one takeaway that you said, we got to change this?
I don't know about change, but I really noticed this morning that experiential hall, we had a small learning lounge, which we just thought would, it had 20, 30 seats in it for people who wanted additional education. That room was packed. For every single session. And what it says to me really is that these people want more education. They just can't get enough of the learning. They're just soaking it up.
Yep. And it's changing so much that you need to stay in touch.
Yes, yeah, especially with technology. Yeah. Actually, also like event insurance was also another hot topic. Hotel contracts. I mean, you're right. It changes so quickly, and you need to stay on top of it.
Yep. And it's micro learning. Really, it's an interesting way of doing it. Because if they want to show up, that means, and everything was, even the end sessions packed to the rafters here, which, I'm always nervous. Okay, is everyone going to split and leave? They're here till the bitter end.
They are. I mean, we tagged a closing reception onto the end because we know how much everybody loves the food here. So that might be helping keep people here. But I think that people are here because they don't want to leave. They've made friends and the education is great and the food is good and it's cold outside.
It's cold outside, but also it fits into my thing that event organizers are collaboration artists, and what you guys have done you're practicing being a collaboration artist with an industry and creating this community. I mean, it really comes down to the simple aspects of I view that event organizers are like the mayor of their niche. They're responsible for getting the people together, for taking out the trash, for getting rid of dealing with complaints and parking tickets and everything else. But you own an ecosystem in a sense. And that's what's so great about our industry. And you just happen to be doing it for the event industry, which is a huge advantage and a really lot of fun. So,
well, we've been in the industry a long time, with our business over 20 years. And what's been an interesting experience, I know for myself, doing Go West has really accelerated those relationships we have with the suppliers that have come and engaged with us to deliver this event. Like, we thought we were well connected prior, but now in doing this event, everybody sees it and they're like, wow, I want to be a part of that. I want to engage with that. And our relationships have just accelerated so much with them. And we got so many new friends. And you're right, this event is really about community and building a community. So it's building a community amongst our attendees, but it's also, we're building a community for ourselves amongst all those that are participating. And that's just it's gold.
Yeah, it's quality of life. I mean, it's satisfying. So how can people attend next year? Now that they missed this year, how can they decide to take a nice January trip to Edmonton if they're from the United States? And forget Florida.
We're going to be launching registration really soon here, and we've got a pretty good marketing team, so we'll be getting the message out and making sure that everybody knows. We usually have some really good pricing on those early registrations as well. So I'm hoping that the people who aren't here are experiencing some FOMO and realizing what they missed out on, especially with some of the breakouts. We've done some really cool things here that they'll be, that's it. I'm not missing next year. I've got to go.
Got to go. Fantastic. Thank you, guys. And we'll see you again next year.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, David.
And we're back. Thanks, David, for that. You attend loads of industry events. So let's take a broader view here based on your vantage. How do you think they have changed for the better in recent years?
Well, it's kind of, I use this in all my presentations. I use the analogy of going to summer camp. And that is what these events feel like. These people really want to gather together and they really want to learn from each other. And you can take even the worst event, like the most poorly produced events, I would say, and the connectivity is still there because of the nature of the people in our business. This one happens to be the talent in Western Canada, where people don't even think about, where people are doing these events and they're done with such creativity and such imagination. There's a thirst for people to want to get together to share, because I believe that in our business, inspiration is what feeds us. And we have to be eating inspiration for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And these kinds of conferences do that, especially when everyone's showing off their wares. Imagine a conference that you could not even afford to really create the conference of this level, but everybody in the industry wants to show off what they're doing. So they're going over and beyond to make sure people sort of understand what's fresh and what's new and what's great.
Mm-hmm. In terms of organizing a conference or programming one, what do you think is the next area of innovation that should be on everybody's minds?
I think personalization of content on a grander scale.
Mm-hmm.
How do you make it so you're going to go to a session that really sort of hits the nail on the head? We've discussed it in some of our old podcasts with Adrian Sager on the Unconference. I think there's going to be sort of a hybrid of that, where people will really get to talk about things that they really need to talk about at these things. I think that you're seeing more and more of that. And the AI stuff that's happening is going to allow it to happen based on people's personalities and what they're looking for. We do simple things like send a survey out and say, what do you want to think about? What do you want to hear? And it's amazing how many things that the organizers may not think about, but the attendees are already giving them even in advance.
Right. And something that reminds me of like the South by Southwest model where you can vote in the sessions you want. I would say that really getting to the foundation of the experience and thinking about the guest experience, we still haven't perfected that. I was at an event recently that left something to be desired in this area. Ask yourself, can your attendees really hear that panel discussion over lunch? And is that the best use of everyone's time? Do you really want a plated 3-course meal in the middle of the day? Do we really eat like that now? And is it the best use of everybody's time?
Right.
And I've seen new thinking on this and other experience-related topics, and we've reported numerous stories on ideas for better conferences, and I hope they spread.
Yep, that's great. So, Beth, what is going on at BizBash?
Well, the Academy Awards were Sunday, so let's breathe a sigh of relief that the Hollywood Awards season has come to an end. And now it's time to learn from it. So check out our coverage on the major Oscar parties, full of ideas for you to adapt for your own events. I think it's important to remember that these are industry events. It's just a very glamorous industry, but they are still ideas that are worth spreading.
Yeah, and I love how our reporters, Claire and the group, are working all night on Sunday night and Monday to get coverage up as fast as possible. It's really incredible.
We wrangle the best. For everyone.
It's fantastic. So before we end, we know that Claire was really, really busy with the Academy Awards, but she did help us with this edition of GatherGeeks in terms of the editorial duties, and Rebecca Pappas for distributing it to all the great channels out there, and Dave Nelson from Lens Group for being our humble producer to put it all together. So with that, what do we say, Beth?
Gather on.
Gather on. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you like what you're hearing, be sure to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or your favorite podcast app. We can be found on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Player FM, Google Play, and Pocket Cast. Be sure to leave us a rating and review. It helps others discover the GatherGeeks podcast. We'd also love to hear from you. You can leave feedback on Twitter at GatherGeeks or leave us an email, gathergeeks@bizbash.com. We hope you'll join us again for the next episode of GatherGeeks. Until then, gather on.